If this is your first time here, welcome. During our shows, we interview successful entrepreneurs and investors to spread knowledge, advice, and actionable tactics to help others in the pursuit of financial freedom. We discuss successes, failures, systems, motivation, experiences, and key lessons learned along the way in hopes that these stories help you along your journey. Tune in every Wednesday to get your weekly juice. If you've been here before and you like what you've been hearing, please subscribe, share with friends, rate, and leave a review on Apple Podcasts. That goes an extremely long way for us. It's simple. Just click on your podcast app, type in the podcast name, click on reviews, and let us know what you think. The more ratings we get, the more eyes we'll get on our show, and in turn, we'll be able to provide you all with high-quality guests. You can also find us on Instagram at weeklyjuicepod for daily content and personal finance tips to assist in your journey towards financial freedom. Welcome back to the Weekly Juice. As always, Ryan and Corey here with another episode for you. Today's episode 37. We have on David Toupin. He's a 25-year-old investor from Austin, Texas. Well, currently residing in Austin, Texas. He has 900 units at age 25. Absolutely incredible.
We were just laughing because of how excited we are just from listening to him talk. The dude he's a developer. He does commercial. He literally is on level 500 and he's 25 years old.
Absolutely insane.
It's motivating though. It's not like the type of thing where I hope people don't listen to this episode and are like, oh, how did he do it? Like he's kind of giving people the tools. He has his own software to help people analyze deals. It was like super eye-opening to think bigger.
The fact that it was the most eye-opening thing for me or most relaxing thing was it sounded like you and myself talking to each other. He does not have a big head.
No. He's
super humble and super willing to share and teach. Yeah. He has courses in mastermind groups that he also teaches people. So maybe it's an educator in him, but I love how he explains his sort of unconventional story about not really paying attention in college. He was investing in real estate in college at 19. So he
bought his first 12 unit deal was his first deal. Like who thinks to do that? And then his next was another 12. And then his next was, I think, a 90. Maybe a 40 in between. But like we're talking about crazy deals and he's only 25.
He explains how it's going to take you the same amount of time to invest in a duplex that it is going to for you to invest in a 12 unit deal. So why go for the smaller deal? If you're confident enough to raise the capital.
Yep. Which he clearly knows exactly how to do just from trial and error. But look, you all start somewhere, whether you start investing in real estate at 42 years old, at 57 years old, or at 19 years old, you can make it to this level. He's living proof. He did it in 5 years. And his net worth, his net worth is probably like tens of, I don't even know.
With the numbers we just threw out, he's more than financially free. He's talking about buying a plane. Just this episode's exciting. And it just brought a little juice into my week. So with that, let's dive in. All right. Welcome to the Weekly Juice, David. We are honored to have you here. Today's gonna be a fun episode. We did a little research on your background and you have an incredible story, so we're here to share it with everyone listening.
Dude, thanks for having me, guys. I appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Absolutely. So if you could kind of just give us a little background on yourself, who you are, what you do, and eventually how you became an entrepreneur.
Yeah, so I'm an entrepreneur, real estate investor, and I own a tech company. And I buy apartments and build apartments. Apartments, pretty much everything I do. My tech company revolves around multifamily real estate. So anything typically 50 to 100 units plus is what I play in. I started buying real estate. I didn't start that big. I started buying real estate when I was 19 or 20. I bought my first property, which is a 12 unit when I was in college. And I always wanted to buy big deals. That was my thing. I wanted to go bigger. However I can go bigger faster was my goal. And so I had no money. I was broke. I was in college. I was trying to pay my meal plan like every other student. And I figured out that if I wanted to buy bigger deals, I needed to use other people's money, other people's capital. And in the process, I could not only make them money, but make me money. So that's what I did. And I raised capital from investors to buy my first deal. I put $0 down on my first 120 apartments that I bought across 3 deals. And then I graduated college with a finance degree that was basically useless. Didn't really go to class much because I was busy buying properties. And,
good excuse not to go to class.
Yeah, it was a good excuse. I'd sit down at my teachers before every semester. I was like, look, I work like 80 hours a week. I'm super busy. Like I'm going to try my best, but like work with me. And I would like plead with my teachers. And so basically I think I had one class where I got like a D plus and I needed a bump to a C minus. I had to like go convince them to bump me up. I wasn't like an A student, but business was my thing. I'm an entrepreneur. It's in my blood. So that's really all I do. And so I started a company called Obsidian Capital, real estate investment firm. I moved from Michigan, outside of Detroit, where I grew up, down to Austin, Texas. It's where we're based. I have 2 business partners in that company. And we've bought a little over $100 million in real estate in the last 4 years. We also build apartments around Austin. And I started a real estate software company and kind of mastermind community about a year ago called Real Estate Lab. That's my second business that I run.
Wow.
So that's me.
That's a lot to unfold there. I think let's start from the beginning a little bit in terms of how you first got into real estate. What bug bit you? How did it start? You said you were 19 years old, but 19-year-old going and buying it. I think you said your first deal was 12 units it's pretty impressive. So how did you figure out that real estate was going to be your thing?
Yeah, I don't know exactly what it was. I knew I always had big goals, and I knew I wanted to live freely, right? And you can't live freely unless you got financial freedom, in my opinion. So I knew I had big goals. I knew I wanted that. And I stumbled upon podcasts early on. And this was like early 2016, late 2015, early 2016. And I listened to Bigger Pockets. Yep. And I was like, dude, this is really cool. Real estate. And I was just listening to house flipping and house hacking and all that kind of stuff. And people kept talking about Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And then I heard a guy who lived like maybe 10 minutes from where I was living in Michigan. I was on the podcast talking about he flipped a couple hundred homes and a bunch of rentals and stuff. I was like, dude, somebody in my hometown can do this. Like I can for sure do this. And that's when it became real. And I read Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And I know it's kind of become a cliche, but it's such a powerful book. And for me, I was sold. I was like, this makes too much sense to not do it. I had some relatives that were into real estate a little bit. And so, with all that kind of combined, I was like, dude, real estate's what I'm doing. I'd tried like startups before. I'd tried other little software things. Nothing worked out. I had failure after failure, a bunch of stupid ideas, how most, a lot of people start, and that's totally fine. My first business though, when I was 13 was a landscaping company. And so I'd always been an entrepreneur, but cool. That's kind of how I got started.
Me too. I actually started a landscaping business when I was, I think like a little bit early high school. Three Kings Landscape.
Damn,
where every lawn is treated like royalty.
Are you serious?
That's a God, good slogan, I stole the t-shirt.
That's amazing.
So we're cut from the same cloth, dude.
Love that, dude.
Yeah. So if you could, I guess walk us through that first deal, just raising the capital. I think you mentioned you use zero of your own dollars. And I'm so intrigued because a lot of people think, hey, listen, for my first deal, I have to raise 25 to 50,000 of my own money to go out and put 20% down on a property. So what's your story on that first deal and how'd you raise the capital?
Yeah, I needed like somewhere in between 150 and 200K. I was just looking at a lot of deals and I was talking to brokers and looking at a lot of apartment properties for sale and cold calling and stuff like that. And I knew if I just find a good deal that's going to make people money, I'm going to be able to find the money. I don't know how. I just know I'm going to do it. I didn't have anyone really lined up. And so I found, I think actually the first property I went under contract was like 40 units. And I pulled out of that contract. We found a bunch of stuff under due diligence. It didn't work, backed out. Next property was 12 units. And deal looked good. It made sense. And so for me, I basically just wrote down a list of all the people I knew that had money and I just started calling them and that's it. And I would just ask them if they weren't interested. I'd ask them for referrals. And I was going to a bunch of like real estate, local like RIA events. I was going to a bunch of those, and a lot of people that flip houses in most towns locally and people that invest in real estate, they've got 50,000, 100,000 sitting around. There are a lot of people that buy rentals cash and flip houses with their own cash and stuff like that. A lot of those people want to make their money work for them. And so I ended up getting 5-6 people to pool that 150,000 together. And I got somebody to put the earnest money up. And so it was just a puzzle. It's like, who can I get to come in on this? And I had to obviously show them the plan and convince them it was a good property, and ended up doing that and brought a couple people in and made them some money. And then I got a piece of sweat equity in the project for putting it all together and doing the work. That's where my piece comes in.
Yeah, that's exactly what it was going to be my next question, because I think people know, okay, you pull together a lot of money. You're the one who founded the deal. How does that equity work out for you? You got 7 people together. How does the structure work for you in that?
Yeah, if you think about it as like the property ownership, it totals 100%. So that $150,000 that was invested bought 80% of the ownership, and I took 20%. For doing the work. And it was a pretty generous deal to investors for the amount of work I did. And then it worked out for them. Like the cash flow, let's say if it made, to keep it really simple, $10,000 a year, they would get $8,000. I would get $2,000. And I also had a management fee and stuff.
Got it. Was that project like a value add? Did you end up doing rehab on it, or did you buy it as is? Oftentimes when you pull money together, the investors want their money back in a quick time frame. We just talked about this. So I'm curious, was that a project that you did rehab on it and refinance and pay your investors back?
Yeah. So the plan was to hold it for a couple, like 3 to 5 years, improve it and sell it. I ended up selling it in like 16 months or something like that, because I realized that I don't want to own a 12 unit. 12 units pain in the ass. I want it bigger. I wanted to go 100 plus. And so, we did renovate though. We increased the rents $50 to $100 per unit, and improved the value of the property and sold it for like $100,000 more or something like that.
Got it.
So were you during the time that you had it, were you self-managing, or did you have a property manager?
I self-managed. Yeah. I self-managed my first few proproperties. And now I'll never self-manage again. I was a pain in the butt.
Well, doing 12 at once. I mean, come on, that's no joke.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a learning experience. I'll tell you that. And the last one I self-managed, I lived in as well. And it was a great learning experience. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't go back and do it differently, but I certainly don't want to do it again.
So, you said 12 units is a pain in the ass, so you wanted to go to 40 and above. I'm confused on that, because it seems like you're taking on more with more units. What's your mindset on that?
Yeah, I'll tell you right now, if you were to say that it's harder to manage 10 single family rentals than it is to manage a single 100 unit property, I'd say you're wrong. Once you hit 90 units and above, I can afford to hire a full-time staff on the property. I can have a full-time manager and a full-time maintenance person. And the manager does all the leasing. The maintenance person takes care of the condition of the property. And then I'm just overseeing them. And if I have a management company, they're overseeing them, and I'm just babysitting the management company, which is even less work. And so I visit my properties that are 100 to 200 units less than I ever did my 12 units. The 12 unit property, I was literally there. Like when my leasing agent couldn't make an appointment, I was the backup, and I had to go do it, and I leased a unit. I didn't raise enough money to renovate the property adequately enough on one of my first 2 deals. A 12 unit I bought. And so I was actually there like painting the property myself. I didn't have a maintenance guy that was full time that could go and do that kind of stuff.
Right.
And so it was a pain in the butt. It was harder to manage. It's easier to manage once you can have the on-site staff. And I know everyone's not like willing to go that scale right away, but it is easier. We have not talked to somebody who's scaled it the way that you have yet. And I think it's a really interesting concept, because a lot of it is just how you frame your mindset. We've talked to people who, even like us, who are doing what's called the stack. You buy a single family, you buy a duplex, you maybe buy a 4 unit, you buy an 8, you buy a 30, whatever, it's some form of a stack. You went from 12. And then did you do the exact same thing in terms of the raising the money from friends of friends of family of friends, that type of thing, for your next deal? Because scaling from 12 to, what was your next 40 unit? So I did a 12, and then 96.
Got it. Let's talk a little bit about between the 12 and the 96. Did you just say, I just want to do bigger? Is it really that simple for you?
Well, I knew I wanted to do bigger stuff, and that was a little nerve-wracking for me going like from that big of a jump. But I just knew it's going to be the same amount of time, but I'm going to make more money doing it, and everybody's going to make more money doing it. And so to me, it just logically, it's like, this just makes sense to do. And I know it's going to be harder, but I might as well try. And so for me, it just happened to be that the 96 unit was a really good deal that I came across. If it happened to be like a 35 unit, that was a really nice deal. That's what I would have done.
Yep.
But I sent a letter to this guy that owned this property, and it was just a classic value add property. The rents were like $200 to $300 below market. It was a good price that he was asking. It just made sense. Everything lined up. I bought it for like 43 a door. I sold it 2 years later for 71,000 a unit. We doubled investors' money in under 2 years. So it was just a fantastic deal overall. And so the opportunity just came to me. And this is all entrepreneurship in general. This is just a typical philosophy of entrepreneurship is like, when an opportunity hits you, you're either going to take it or you're not. That's all. There's just two options. You're either going to go for it or you're not going to go for it. I chose to go for it. And it was the hardest thing I'd ever done in my life. Raising that is $1.7 million I had to raise.
Wow.
And it was not easy. I was 21 years old. I had only raised $350,000 before for my first 2 properties. And that was hard. But I figured that I'd make it happen. I'd work till I was blue in the face and I'd just do it.
Your face is no longer blue. So
no.
how
it was for a while.
I can imagine. How did you specifically raise this capital? Like you said, $1.7 million. Like I'm thinking, okay, similar to your story before, like you go to your local REIA group, you have people that have extra cash lying around, you present them with some sort of portfolio or pitch, right? So can you talk about, I guess, how many people were involved in this deal, and then what you presented everybody to say, hey, listen, you give me your money, this is what I can do for you?
Yeah. I had 26 investors across the 1.7 million. I had one investor who's the guy who signed on the loan because I can't, I wasn't financially capable of signing on the loan. My net worth was sub 100,000 at that point. And so you need somebody, typically for commercial and multifamily loans, you need somebody with a net worth of the loan amount, liquidity of at least 10% of the loan amount. So I got a guy locally who had about 3,000 apartments he owned. He liked the deal. He signed on the loan. He put like 100,000 in himself, and then he brought 5 of his friends in for like 500 grand. So that took out a big chunk of it right away, which was great. It took me like a month and a half, and I stumbled across that guy through a connection, and it worked out. The rest of it, it was the same thing as before. I mean, there's no secret sauce. That's the toughest thing is because I love teaching people about getting into this stuff, but there is no equation for raising money. You just have to meet wealthy people. You need to find people that have money, expendable income to be able to do it. And so it comes through referrals, cold calling, door knocking, going to events, meeting people, asking for friends, talking to family, like just continually talking about it. And anyone I ever heard about, I'd have like my family come home and like, oh, I met this person. I was like, oh, do they have money? Let me call them, stuff like literally shit like that. And so I just went crazy. It was just yeah.
I think more people can do this than people think they can, right? Like this is, my brain just went crazy. I was like, I know people with money, but I haven't asked them for the money yet because for some reason in my head, I feel like I'm not ready to do it, but I actually probably am ready to do it. It's just
you're more than ready.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, once you realize that, like, was I ready to buy my first, second, or third deal, whatever that was? Not really, but I did it anyway. Right. So it's kind of that same thing.
They're lucky to know you, that you're a guy that's even going to present them a good opportunity for them to put their money somewhere and make them a lot of money. Like as long as you're being a responsible investor and sponsor, right? My investors, they're like, dude, when's the next deal? I've made them so much freaking money, and it's cool. I love making my investors money because when they make money, I make money.
Yeah, that's incredible because you think about the market, how that plays, and you put it in for a long period of time and you hope it makes X percent. You're going to someone saying, hey, you give me this X amount and I can almost guarantee, or maybe you are giving them a guarantee that you're going to have this return back on your investment. Are you putting this in some sort of, and I almost asked this before, but like some sort of portfolio or a pitch? Like how is your pitch to these people is it on paper? Is it just over a phone call? Is it on in person, on Zoom? Like, I'm not sure how it works.
Yeah. And that's a great question. Sorry, I missed that one before. So I put it into a pitch deck. Nowadays, we call it an offering memorandum or an OM. And it's a nice document. It looks pretty. There's pictures, description of what we're going to do with the property. What does the legal structure of the deal look like? What do the projected returns look like? All that stuff. When I first started, I did none of that. I put all these documents, my Excel sheet, into like a Dropbox with a bunch of pictures, and I sent it to people. Dude, nobody opened the freaking Dropbox thing. And my closing rate was like less than 1%. I think the first 50 people I hit up, I just didn't get anything back from because I made it so difficult for them. I was like, dude, what the hell am I doing wrong? I was like, these are people with money. I've got a great deal. And by the way, I ended up, like I said, I almost doubled people. I got like a 45% annualized return to these investors. So, which is insane.
So they love you.
Oh, they love me. They've all reinvested with me. Like it's been a good relationship, but I just did it so wrong at first. And so my first 30 days was just like, I had like $200,000 maybe raised. And it's just like, dude, I don't even have enough to close on this deal. I have 30 more. I've just had $100,000 from somebody else that put the earnest money up, go non-refundable, and I don't have the money raised yet. And so, it was just continual. But then I met that other guy, sponsored the loan. He brought a good amount. I needed 1.7 to do the project, but I only needed 1.1 million to buy the property. Right. And the rest I could continue raising after.
You mean close at 1.1, the renovations would be up to 1.7 is essentially what
correct. Yeah. It's another 500,000 in renovations and 200,000 in closing costs and my acquisition fee and stuff like that. And so I was like, okay, I don't need to get my fee right away. I just need to close on the property and I need some renovation money, but like I can continue raising for maybe 6 months, a couple months after I close. And so I ended up getting a 30-day extension, and then I ended up raising a couple $100,000 more from people. I got a couple doctors and dentists who ended up telling their friends. My dad, who's a dentist, he had some money in an IRA, so he put $50,000 in, stuff like that. And then I started learning more. I was like, I didn't even know people could invest with a 401k or IRA. So right away, I went back to a bunch of people I talked to, and they're like, I don't have any cash, but I have a 401k or I have an IRA. And I went back to him. I was like, yo, I figured out how you can invest with the IRA. And so I went back and got another couple $100,000 from people. And so it's just a learning process for me. And wow. I did everything wrong.
I got about 3. I'm sure you got 7 questions.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions. So go ahead.
Oh God. I guess I'll start with just cause you said the 401k, and I asked this twice before and I never got an exact clear answer, but so now you realize that people can use their 401k money early, apparently, to invest with you. What is the actual process for that? Because we know people that have between maybe 50 to 100K just sitting there, but they're like, oh, I can't touch it till 67. Sure. What's the process?
Yeah. So it's not possible for everyone. It depends how it's structured. You technically need to do it, as far as I know, through what's called a self-directed IRA account. And most people have a 401k, right? And so the thing that it's dependent on is if they have it through an employer or if they're self-employed or how the 401k is structured. Some employers, like a lot of people back in Detroit that I talked to, work for automotive companies. The automotive company won't let them divest from their 401k and transfer into an IRA. And so they could not invest. A lot of people that have more flexible employers, flexible 401k accounts, they were able to roll over funds. You just directly roll it over into an IRA. Self-directed IRA with a specific custodian. So not all of them will let you do it. So you can't just go to any like TD Ameritrade or Scottrade or whatever it's called investment account. There are specific ones. I work with a company out of Florida in Atlanta called Advanta IRA. And they specifically, like one of their specific products is their custodian for real estate IRAs. And so I send all my guys there. They have great customer service. They roll their money from a 401k or another IRA into one of these guys' IRAs who allow them to invest in real estate. The money comes to my deal from them. I pay my returns directly back to their IRA. So I send their dividend checks and their profits back there. And so, they keep growing their money tax deferred and all that stuff right through the IRA.
Wow. Excellent. That's really good advice. It's pretty clean and concise. We haven't got exactly how to do it. I know there's a couple ways to do it, but thank you for that. So We're talking about 2 prongs here, right? The funding of the deal and then the finding of the deal. There's 2 kind of ways you look at this. It sounds like you got really good at the funding, but I'm curious, you mentioned that you were sending mailers out. How do you even find 10, 20, 30, 50, 100 unit complexes? And what's your strategy about going about doing that? Because you can have the money, but if you don't have the deal, what's the point, right?
Mm-hmm. And to be honest, there's way more money out there than there are deals. And it may not seem like that at first, but there's a lot of money out there waiting to be put into multifamily real estate deals. It's a very competitive space right now. So the hard part is finding the deal. And how do you do that? It's no different from finding a single family home. Just like you have real estate agents, you have commercial brokers, what we call them, multifamily brokers. And they do the same thing. Their job every day is to go find listings and list multifamily properties for sale. Mm-hmm. And that's what they do. And so part of what I do, because in my business, like I said, I have 2 business partners. I focus really heavily on the acquisition side and getting the property from finding it, getting it under contract, raising capital up to closing. And then my business partner, Mike, he kind of takes over on the asset management side of things once we buy it. And so I'm constantly building relationships with brokers. We send mailers out, which I learned from my days wholesaling, which is kind of how I started. I wholesaled not a long time. I did a couple deals over the course of like 4 or 5 months. But I learned from wholesaling. I'd sent mailers, I cold called owners, I'd skip trace, all that kind of stuff that you hear a lot of single family people talk about. I did the same thing in apartments, and it's no different. I'm just trying to find a motivated seller who has some kind of a reason that they want to sell, or somebody that has a property that has room for me to buy and add value to it, enough value where it makes sense for me to purchase it from them. And so that's all I'm doing. I'm just creating these spiderweb connections and continuously reaching out to brokers and owners and trying to establish relationships.
What's a typical mailer look like? I'm sure people are curious, like the writing in it, what color is the paper, a lot of different things.
Yeah, I don't use the yellow letters and the stuff like that. I know you can get real funky with it. A lot of single family investors do. I just send a professional letterhead in my company and I say, hey, we're buyers of real estate in this area. I notice you own a property on ABC Street. If you're interested in selling, I'm willing to make you an offer on it. Please give me a call, shoot me a text. Here's my email. Very simple.
Very simple. Yeah.
Yeah, very simple. And so I bought three of my best deals have been from mailers over the past 5 years.
And where are you getting the data? Like I know you say you're trying to find motivated sellers. Where's that data coming from? Like, okay, here's the list of 500 that I need to blast.
Sure. I use a software called CoStar, and it is probably the best commercial real estate software there is. And it has info on every single commercial property, multifamily property. I would say almost 90% of them out there in the entire country. And you can go into any city and you can click on it. It just shows you a map and you can click on a pin for any property, and most likely it'll tell you who the owner is, how many units, what's the unit mix, how many 1 bedrooms, 2 bedrooms, 3 bedrooms. This company owns apartments.com and a bunch, and they own LoopNet. If you've heard of LoopNet.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Heard of it.
CoStar owns LoopNet. LoopNet's like the free version. This is the paid version. It's not cheap. For nationwide access, I pay like $1,200 a month. And so it's super expensive, but I can pull lists of every 100 to 150 unit apartment complex in whatever city or region I tell the software to look for, built from 1970 to 1990. I mean, I can get as detailed as I want. I could look up 2-story buildings, only 3-story buildings. I mean, it's insane. They're just a big data company. And so it's called CoStar.
You could technically, I don't know how it works, but do they limit you on the amount of lists you pull? Like, could you say, hey, I'm going to try this for 1 month and just so every single day, just crush lists like that?
No, they make you sign a contract. You have to sign I signed like a 3-year contract to lock in the price because it goes up all the time. 4 years ago, I was paying $300 a month for it. Now it's over $1,000. So it gets more expensive. Yeah. You can
probably
do a 1-year contract.
$1,000 a month you spend though, right? Like the easiest.
Oh yeah.
Easiest $1,000.
I just know I'm spending $15,000 a year for this, but I'm going to make way more than that because of it. So,
yeah.
So analyzing deals, in your opinion, is it the same or completely different from single family to, I guess, residential to commercial real estate?
Same concept, just more complex, more numbers to look at. I mean, it's similar to a single family rental property or 2-unit, 4-unit, whatever. How much rent are you bringing in? What are your expenses? What's your financing look like? And what's your net income? The only thing that's different is how you calculate the value of a commercial property. We have something called net operating income, and I'll explain it like this. You have your gross income, which is all the money that's brought in from rents, late fees, pet fees. If you ever lived in an apartment, they charge all these different fees, right? So all the income, and then you take out all of your expenses, which are everything excluding major one-time renovations like replacing a roof or something like that. We don't include that. That's called the CapEx. And we don't include debt service, so your mortgage payments. But everything else you subtract from your gross income. So your taxes, insurance, maintenance, utilities, all that stuff. And then you get a number called net operating income. The NOI, this is all commercial real estate. Anything 5 units or bigger, or any kind of retail, office building, whatever you call it, they're all valued the same. We use the NOI and we divide it by what's called a cap rate. You probably heard of cap rates before, right? It's expressed as a percentage, normally in the range of like 5 to 10%. And you just divide that NOI by the percentage, which is determined by the kind of market you're in, the type of property. And that's how you get the value. So let's say a certain area is the market cap rate is 7%, which is a pretty average valuation. My NOI is 100,000. Well, if I take 100,000, maybe I make 200,000, I have 100,000 expenses. So I have 100,000 NOI divided by 0.07. My value is 1.4 million. Let's say I can get my income up to 150,000 and I still have the same $100,000 expenses. Or sorry, I get my income up to 250,000 and I subtract out my 100,000 expenses. My NOI has now gone up $50,000. So 150,000 divided by 0.07 is now 2.1 million. So my value, all I did was increase rents and get my income up 50 grand. And my income went from 1.4 to 2.1 million. And so that's the game we play. And I know for people listening, it's probably a little hard to follow. Like, do some research on cap rates. Exponential growth. A 10 cap rate is a 10 multiple on whatever, every dollar you increase your NOI. A 5 cap is a 20 multiple, and you're dividing by 5%. So every dollar you increase the property in a market like Austin, Texas is a very low cap rate market, 5%. California, New York used to be with COVID. But so every dollar we get our NOI up, the value goes up, $10 to $20. And so that's the game we're playing, is increasing the value and playing this game with NOI and cap rate.
Okay. So back to the property, and we're talking about analyzing a commercial deal as opposed to a residential deal. And I'm thinking about the $1.7 million deal that you talked about. And you mentioned that you had to put in about $600,000 worth of capital for rehab. How do you even know, like, when you're analyzing a deal, like, oh, this property is going to need X, Y, Z in order for us to gain this profit? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
On it overall.
It's just, so it's kind of an open equation that you just have to play around with it, right? And that's why we've got a tool to analyze, which I built an Excel tool. And so really you kind of use a little bit of your gut and vision, right? What do I have to do to this property to get the rents up? So the first thing I'll do is I'll compare where are the rents right now and where are other properties in the market, where are their rents at? And if I look at it and the rents are already at market value and it doesn't look like you can push them anymore, I'll then look to see, are there any properties in the area that have nicer units, more renovated? Maybe I can go and renovate my units and up the rents, and I'll see what that looks like in the model. How much is my NOI going up? How much is my cash flow going up? All that stuff. And then, if that's not possible, then really there's no value that I can add. There's not a ton of value. I don't say no. I mean, there's other ways to add value. I could bill back for utilities. I could do other things. I could reduce expenses. I mean, all of that adds to your NOI growth. But ideally, you want to find a property where the rents are low as is, but also I can renovate the property and get the rents up. So if I'm looking at a property and the rents are like $800, but I know that other properties in the area are renting for $1,200, I just need to put in some granite countertops and some new cabinets and some, new flooring, and I can get that rent up. Just look at that and see how it affects your income. Say you're taking 20 units from $800 a month to $1,200 a month. Calculate that, calculate your expenses, see what your NOI count goes from and to, and what the new value might be. And it's just a kind of an equation you play around with.
Cool. Thanks. So I want to dive into mastermind groups. I keep seeing this everywhere online, or like a local RIA group. And then I see, hey, join my mastermind group, or I'm a part of XYZ mastermind group on Instagram. Can you just explain the difference of these and then also dive into your personal mastermind group?
Yeah. So masterminds are awesome. I joined one mastermind when I first was in real estate on like a credit card. I couldn't even afford it, but I joined it. I ended up making 7 figures just off the partnerships that I formed through that mastermind self. My current business partner today, actually, I met through that. And so masterminds are small networking groups, normally between 10 and I'd say under 30, 40 people. Much more than that, it's a little big. So small groups, we get together and we really, really focus in and talk about and solve problems, share ideas about the industry that we're in. And so I know there's masterminds in all different kinds of industries, from real estate to sales to, there might even be masterminds for construction companies, landscaping, you name it. There's all different types. And so I'm in a couple masterminds for multifamily. And then I have a mastermind with a couple buddies called Secret X. And it's a business entrepreneur networking mastermind where we go to exotic locations around the world twice a year. And we just have a freaking blast and talk about business. And so we started that a couple of years ago. I just got back from Jamaica actually a couple of weeks ago. And that was dope. We had people from real estate people all the way to, there's a guy who's a billionaire who owns a trash company. He owns a garbage company, garbage collection, landfills, that kind of shit. So it's like all across the board, just cool people that love business.
That's combining the vacation and the business is probably the most fun, because it's not like you love business and you might as well out of place. You know?
Yeah. Pictures these online all the time, and I'm wondering, like, okay, are there breakout sessions? Are you just doing excursions? Like, what does it actually look like? I know for yours, apparently you just show up and then there's an itinerary once you get there. You apparently don't.
Yeah. So it's called Secret X, like secret experience. So I actually can't tell you. It's kind of so it's really cool. We did it on accident because the first one we threw was in Cabo. We invited a bunch of people and we really didn't tell them what they were getting into. They were just like people that we knew online and had met at events and stuff. And just got 20 people to show up and they're like, yo, this is awesome. We don't really know what we're getting ourselves into. We're like, shit, well, we've got a yacht booked for tomorrow and we're going and hanging out and doing all this cool stuff. And so we kind of evolved into Secret X where it's like, all right, that's our thing. We're just not going to tell people what you're doing. You just show up, know that you're going to have a dope time with cool people and talk business and just have fun on vacation. And so that's kind of what it is.
That's awesome. So not all of the mastermind groups are the same, correct? So apparently like the Secret X is different. Secret for a reason, but other ones people know what they're getting into and there should be things laid out each time.
Yeah. Our whole philosophy, because I would say most masterminds are like more conference room style, business professional type of thing. We're like, we want the opposite of that. I want to be drinking a margarita on a beach and doing my mastermind, And so it's totally different. Yeah, exactly. So it's a totally different philosophy. And it's like, that's how we get people out of their comfort zone and build true relationships with people.
Cool. So we want to dive a little bit into the systems that you use, because obviously no business functions without having some sort of system built out for you to succeed. I'm curious, how do you manage your, or are there certain programs that you specifically use to manage your business? I know maybe you have hired certain people to do certain things. Maybe how does your skill set parlay into theirs? And what are the type of systems that you have built to run your business?
So in terms of like softwares and stuff like that, we have different.
I mean, softwares or just the tracking of your expenses versus your income. Is that something as simple as Excel?
Yeah. So for all, financial business level stuff, for a couple of my businesses, I just have a bookkeeper and he manages all of our financials through QuickBooks. So that's how that's all done. And then everything's passed off by the end of the year to our accountant, our CPA, who does the rest of the taxes and stuff. For managing all of our investors, we have a software called Syndication Pro. And that is a software that helps us manage investor inflow. And so they go there, they get to sign up, set up a call with us. We get to know them, figure out what type of deals they want to invest in. And then when we have a deal that's open for investment, we post it there. All of our hundreds of investors get notified. They can elect, if they want to invest, how much they want to invest, that kind of stuff. So that's kind of investor system. Property management wise, we have third-party management companies that we hire. So they have all different kinds of softwares and systems. And then I'm building a software right now under my real estate lab company that is going to be a full suite acquisitions platform, multifamily underwriting tool built into the website. That's the main function of it, and track all your deal flow, send offers, LOIs, all that kind of stuff. And so it's a full multifamily acquisition software. I'm spending $500,000 building this thing out. It's going to be really legit. And I think it's going to help a lot of people buy a lot more multifamily properties and underwrite them easier, where a lot of people have a tough time doing that. This is going to simplify the process for them.
One question to go off that struck a chord with me, where you talked about an investor platform, which I think is super smart to have a place where you can schedule all of your calls and whatnot. Do you have a minimum threshold of an investment of capital? Is it project dependent, or do you say, look, if you have $50,000 to invest it works for this deal. If you have 100, it works for this deal. Do you have some sort of threshold that you go by?
Yeah, it's normally 50,000, but every deal is different. It's per deal basis. We just did one where it was 25,000 to try it out. We've done a lot at 50,000, some at 100,000. And so every deal just we'll outline in the agreement what the minimum is.
Cool.
So I know you're a real estate investor, but also a developer. Can you explain the difference between the two?
Yeah. So as an investor buying existing properties, the difference is we're out there hunting down properties that are for sale or to find an owner that's willing to sell a property. We're underwriting it in terms of looking at what's the best price to pay, what's the current financial performance, where can we bring it to. With development, it's a little different because it's a much longer process. You don't cash flow day one, right? We're looking for a piece of land that we can get approved for X amount of apartments to be built on it. Then we're going and building apartments. So I'm building 50 units right now outside of Austin, and I'm building another 150 units we're breaking ground on next year in North Austin. And it's just a much different process. Development is a different game. It's a lot more waiting. Nothing's guaranteed, right? There's a lot of steps you got to go through to figure out even
permitting, all that
approvals. Stuff. Yeah, you got it. So it's just a ton of stuff. The financing is a little different. You have to be more experienced. So it's not something I would have gotten into right away personally, but it's something that we're growing more and more into. And I do like it. It's stuff that we're going to hold on to for a lot longer, 10 plus years.
Cool. Excellent. Can you just explain, I know you have your hand in a lot of different things, right? And wear many hats. So you have two companies specifically that I know about, the Real Estate Lab and then Obsidian Capital. What are the differences between the two and how do you manage your day in both?
Yeah. Obsidian Capital is the real estate company where I buy and build apartments and other kinds of real estate. And then Real Estate Lab is primarily a software company where I'm building that software platform out. And then we also have a Real Estate Lab community, which is, we have about 110 members right now. It's a subscription-based community where we have weekly calls. I educate people. We do like networking calls where we put people in little breakout rooms and we talk over Zoom. We have a big group chat, all this stuff. And so we've got over 100 members in that. And basically it's just people helping people. How do we all buy more deals together, help each other do that, share resources, all that kind of stuff, contacts. And so, between the two, sometimes I segment my days where it's like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I'm going to focus really heavily on my Obsidian Capital. And then Thursday, Friday, I've got a stack day for like calls for Real Estate Lab. But generally, I bounce back a lot between the two, which is tough because part of my motto in business is focus. And so I try as much as I can to stay really focused. And so I've built teams around both of those. I'm more involved in the day-to-day of my real estate company. I have 2 full-time employees on my Real Estate Lab company that do a lot of the day-to-day stuff. And I'm more high level on that. And so I'd say I spend 30 to 40 hours a week on Real Estate Lab and 40 to 50 hours a week on my real estate company. And so just depending on the weekend, some weeks it switches, some weeks it goes back and forth. But every day I structure where I have 0 calls before noon. This is just how I run my life. I have nothing up till noon on my schedule. And then everything like appointments, meetings, all that kind of stuff, I'm booked from like noon or 1 till 7 or 8 every single day. And so what that allows me to do is every day I get to wake up, or every night I get to figure out like what's most important for me to do right now. Maybe I have a loan I need to apply for a commercial apartment building I'm trying to buy. So the next morning I know I'm going to be free because I never book my mornings. I know I'm going to be free and I can take that time to do what I need to do for that company, or I need to do something for Real Estate Lab. So I know I'm going to have that time free. So if I didn't get to today, tomorrow morning, I have time to do it. And I know that tomorrow morning I have nothing. I already know like whatever I need to get done, I'm going to get done in that five hour period before noon.
We talk to a lot of people that are night owls turned early birds. I kind of like that. You're saying, hey, listen, I don't schedule my first call until noon, so I free up my morning. It's a little different than what we've heard. How early are you up each day?
Dude, totally depends. This morning, I didn't get out of bed till like 10:30 because I worked 10 hours last Saturday, Sunday. And then I was up at like 5:30 Monday, and I just flew over to Indianapolis, got here really late last night. So I was like slept in, but I could do that because my mornings are clear.
Yeah.
And so, Yeah.
See,
so
that's very cool. That's very cool. I kind of feel like I operate on that, like whenever the work needs to get done, but I know personally I need to structure my life more. So it's very cool that you're flexible with your schedule like that. I think if there's not
that's
a
normally when I'm
one-stop shop.
Exactly. That's normally when I'm traveling though. I'm normally up at 7 every day, right, and I get going by 8. So that's pretty, I'd say 75% of the time I'm working by 8, but today was a little different.
Well, you're in Indy, you're usually in Texas, and then sometimes Michigan. You're pretty much everywhere, and
or Cabo, or
Cabo, yeah, whatever. So a lot of people may not know this about you, but correct me if I'm wrong. You are studying to become a pilot or get your pilot license.
I am. I'm almost there.
Tell us some more,
dude. I'm telling you, flying is the most freeing feeling in the entire world. And if you have a plane, you can get anywhere, anytime. Like I could just say right now, dude, I want to go to Vegas tonight, and I could just pick up and I could fly to Vegas. Like really wherever you want to go, whenever you want to go. And so when I first started flying, I was like, man, this is an insane feeling. I want to be able to do this anytime. And so I've set aside other like personal goals, and right now I'm like, that's my hobby. I'm studying to become a pilot. I'm 75% of the way there, and then next year I'm going to buy a little plane, little Cirrus.
Beautiful.
That's
awesome. That's a cool goal. That's like an unorthodox goal that not a lot of people aspire to do. So that's pretty cool.
At age
I'll come pick you guys up. We'll go get some lunch down in Miami, look at some deals, and we'll go back up to Jersey or whatever.
Go say back.
Yeah.
We're in.
Yeah. Let's do it. And we're recording right now, so you can't.
All right, good. Good. Clip it out.
We respect your time. I know you probably have like 8 more calls to do today. So what I want to talk about real quick is your future goals with your business. You're 25 years old. I don't know how many times if we've even mentioned that. Like, so maybe you're 26 by now. Are you 25 still?
25.
25.
Yeah, just 25.
Yeah. So you have so many years left and you're already at this stage. I mean, what are your future goals with your business?
Yeah. Business wise, I want to buy 5 more large apartment deals by the end of next year. And so that probably, 1,000 to 2,000 more apartments. I want to do what I did in the last 5 years in the next 12 months, essentially. So I want to buy another 1,000 apartments by the end of next year. And then my real estate lab company, we're at 100 members. Once we launch the software in May of 21, I'd like to have 500 members between the software and the community. And I'd feel really good at that point. And then if I do that, I can buy a plane. That's like my goal. If I do that, I can buy myself a plane.
I love it. Will you? So we talked. I think it's just kind of funny because we talked about it before. You pulled the Elon Musk. You pulled the Joe Rogan. You moved down to go to Austin, Texas. Is that for your life? Like we asked you where your business lies in the next 5-10 years. Do you see yourself freebirding it, kind of moving around, or do you think you'll anchor down somewhere specific once you got this plane taking you everywhere?
Yeah, I'm in Austin at least the next decade. I mean, I love it there. It's a dope city. It's grown like crazy, so it'd be stupid for me not to try and like buy every piece of property in sight and build and just let that economy kind of take off. I feel like it'd be like getting in on LA 30 years ago, and so that's kind of my goal. I'm also building a corporate office building right now. It's almost done. We're a couple months out. We're building a 3,500 square foot office for our company or companies at the moment. So that'll be like home base.
Got it. I haven't heard the analogy like LA 30 years ago because I know Austin's exploding, but to hear it like that's major. So,
dude, the city I live in has 14% population growth year over year. And I'm just outside of Austin. I mean, where you would buy a house for $400,000 just 3 years ago is now $1 million home. I mean, it's absolutely insane, dude. It's nuts. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Everything's like a 4 cap on a commercial. It's wow. Crazy. So, and it's going to keep going because companies keep moving there. Tesla's just building a new facility outside of there. All these companies are leaving California because California politics, I mean, let's be honest, they absolutely suck. The taxes are crazy. You don't pay any state income tax in Texas. That's not changing. And so Oracle just announced they're moving to Austin. I mean,
yeah. I mean, that's going to bring however many jobs.
Hundreds of jobs. Yeah.
Cool. It's awesome. We, last segment of our show is called The Last Drop. Essentially, we'd like to hear like a piece of information. Maybe it's a book, a tool, a podcast, an app, something that help take you to the next level in your journey and that you could share with our audience, maybe who's either just starting out or trying to take their game to the next level.
Yeah. Like what's a resource you can't live without?
if you want to buy apartments, you need a deal analyzer. You need a tool that helps you underwrite the deal. And I've built one. It's on my website, realestatelab.com. Check it out. I've got a free one there for you guys to download and utilize. And then there's a little more complex one that you can pay for. And that is something, if you want to invest in apartments, you can't live without.
Awesome.
Absolutely incredible. So if someone listened to this episode and they say, wow, David, 25-year-old stud, 900 units. I like this guy. I need to learn more about him. Want to network with him. Just where's your main hub that people can find you and maybe link up with you?
Instagram, hit me up at Real Estate Jedi. And then Facebook, LinkedIn, just search David Toupin and hopefully it'll pop up.
Cool. Love it. This has been awesome, David. We really appreciate your time. And I don't want to wait too long to talk to you next because you might have 1 million units under management. So
well, I'll just be waiting for him to pick us up.
Yeah.
Hey.
That's dope.
I didn't want to say it,
yeah.
Dude, thank you very much again. And may the force be with you.
Yeah, may the force be with you. 100%, dude. Hey, you're a cool couple of dudes. I appreciate you having me on and best of luck with everything.
Appreciate it, man.
So
Thanks so much.
We'll be in touch. Thank you so much.